Welcome to GRE. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. It's the first time that we have a certain legacy finance personality on the show. We're talking about how you can cultivate your own personal wealth mindset, how to creatively add value to your real estate, and how to put your kids to work for big tax deductions and more today on Get Rich Education.
Since 2014, the powerful Get Rich Education podcast has created more passive income for people than nearly any other show in the world. This show teaches you how to earn strong returns from passive real estate investing in the best markets without losing your time being a flipper or landlord. Show host Keith Weinhold writes for both Forbes and Rich Dad Advisors and delivers a new show every week. Since 2014, there's been millions of listener downloads in 188 world nations. He has A-list show guests include top-selling personal finance author Robert Kiyosaki. Get Rich Education can be heard on every podcast platform, plus it has its own dedicated Apple and Android listener phone apps. Build wealth on the go with the Get Rich Education podcast. Sign up now for the Get Rich Education podcast or visit GetRichEducation.com.
You're listening to the show that has created more financial freedom than nearly any show in the world. This is Get Rich Education.
Welcome to GRE, from the second state of Pennsylvania to the second to last state of Alaska and across 188 nations worldwide. I'm Keith Weinhold, and you are back for another wealth building week. This is Get Rich Education. And coincidentally, they are the two states where I've lived my life. Every single one of us has a gap in our lives. There is a gap between who you are and who you could be. And today, my guest and I will talk about this some more. Look, there are people who should already be financially free, but they're not. Their residual income could exceed their expenses by now, yet they aren't financially free. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're stupid. It's because they're stuck in one of these three traps. Number one, they're working harder instead of smarter. Number two, they're playing small instead of playing to win, which is like paying off low interest rate debt instead of keeping their own money, like I discussed last week. Or thirdly, investing in all the wrong things or not investing at all. And the worst part is that these people don't even realize that they're doing it. Most people aren't even cognizant. They don't have any awareness of the gap. You're not going to make progress on closing a gap that you don't know exists. You've got no chance of hitting a bullseye when you're aiming at the wrong target. And I think it helps to develop a structure in your life where you have to tell yourself, I better do a good job here or else. Yeah, it's the or else part that's a motivator. Now, some people won't extrapolate that mantra beyond the workplace. The number one thing that keeps employees showing up at work is fear. They tell themselves, I better show up at work on time or else. I better do a good job on this project or else. I better give a great sales presentation or else. Now, that's all well and fine, but to close the gap between who you are and who you could be, tell yourself something on a higher level, like, I had better get some residual income outside of work, or else I'm going to stay stuck in a soulless job forever, and I'll never get that time back. So you've got to set up the right for else consequence for yourself. And then, yeah, of course, there are smaller ones like, I better avoid eating kettle chips or else I'll gain weight. Let's be mindful that there are three types of freedom. You've got three types: time freedom, money freedom, and location freedom. Real estate investing gives you all three. You can make an unlimited income. There's the money freedom part. You can remotely manage your property managers from anywhere. There's your location freedom. And since you're not directly responding to your tenant, your property manager is, well, there's your time freedom. You've got a buffer from emergencies. Once you get this dialed in, and it does take a few years, now you've got the time freedom, the money freedom, and the location freedom. What do you want to avoid? Only making a big income. It was recently reported that Wall Street bonuses were way up this past year. Okay, yeah, but how happy are those finance worker Manhattanites who wear an iron-pressed button-down shirt and a Patagonia vest for 14 hours a day? That's not time freedom for sure, and it isn't location freedom either, unless it's 100% work from anywhere. In my life, I recently got a great reminder of this. It really hit me. I have this close friend. He was the valedictorian of our high school class. I think I brought him up before. He's still a tight friend. I mean, sometimes we go on vacations together. Well, we have a high school class reunion back in Pennsylvania this summer. And among him and our other, closest group of friends, my tightest guys, I'm always encouraging everyone to, spend at least a week together because we can't all get together like this that often. And because I have the time freedom to kind of suggest that and even push for that. Well, my valedictorian friend, he is a surgeon in St. Louis. And among this tightest knit group of friends, he's the only one that cannot get the week off so that we can all hang out together more after the reunion. Instead, he can only get 3 or 4 days. He's got to get back to work as a surgeon in St. Louis. Now, I'm sure he's compensated really well, and he doesn't live a bad life, but as a surgeon, it's just become blatantly obvious that he doesn't have either the time freedom or the location freedom. Yet I do as a remote real estate investor, even though it's not something that I studied in college. But my valedictorian surgeon friend, he had a long educational path, undergrad and med school and residency and a ton of training and all these years tied up in his medical education. Therefore, sometimes when people do that, they feel obligated, like that's what they should do. That's what they have to do because he's already put so much into it. But he only has one of the 3 types of freedom. And no matter what you went to school for, if you find out about something better, like a great business idea or remote real estate investing, you've got to consider pivoting into that and go into that if it makes sense for you. The world changes, it keeps getting faster, and you've got to change with it. So obtaining financial freedom through real estate helps you deal with an external locus of control issue where life is constantly happening to you rather than something you can influence. When you're an employee, life happens to you more often than when you're the one pushing the buttons. When you control the 3 freedoms, now you are narrowing that gap between who you are and who you could be. I didn't mention it previously. 2 weeks ago, I brought you the show from Las Vegas, Nevada. Last week, from just outside Colorado Springs. And today, I'm here in Anchorage, Alaska, where I'll be for a few weeks before heading to London, England, and then from there on to Scotland. I plan to visit the former home of the father of economics when I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland. Of course, that is Adam Smith, the author of The Wealth of Nations. I might tell you more about that at that time. Before we bring in our guest this week, a quarter recently ended. Here is our asset class rundown. The NAR reported that the median sale price of an existing home rose 3.8% year over year in February, marking the 20th straight month that sale prices increased year over year. Mortgage rates fell from 6.9% to 6.6% per Freddie Mac. This is all year-to-date Q1. The S&P 500 was down 4.5%. The NASDAQ down 10.5%. That's officially correction territory as those tariff fears dominated the quarter. Interest rates of all kinds are a little lower. Yield on the 10-year T-note falling from 4.6 to 4.2 despite inflation concerns. Inflation hovering just under 3% for most of the quarter. Bitcoin down 12%. Oil is still super cheap, beginning the quarter where it ended near $70. Gold has been the star performer this year, up 17% just in the quarter, and for the first time in history, it surged to over $3,000 an ounce. Its best quarter since 1986. In fact, this century, gold has now outperformed the S&P 500 by 2.5 times. Just incredible. There's our asset class rundown. Let's speak with this week's guest. This week's guest has been a longtime prominent, well-known name, perhaps even a household name. She is a global wealth expert, 6-time New York Times bestselling author, and today she runs integrated wealth systems and other alternative asset platforms. Since 1996, she's been involved in multiple areas of finance mentoring, real estate investment, business development, and gas and oil. And much like me, she teaches people her strategies on how to make money, invest money, and keep money. But together, you and I can look forward to getting her spin today. And you've seen her seemingly everywhere over time. In the USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, The View, Dr. Phil, and every major legacy network channel. Many times, she is on a mission to change the conversation about money. She was known as the millionaire maker from back when $1 million was actually a lot of money. Welcome to GRE, Loral Langemeier.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here. I look forward to talking with your audience.
Loral, though we're a real estate investing show and audience here, I think that you and I would agree that wealth building starts in the mind, that most valuable 6 inches of real estate between our ears. What's your take on cultivating a wealthy mindset?
You got to hang out with millionaires. I say the fastest way to become a millionaire is hang out with them. For me, I know that's what happened. 1996, Bob Proctor introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki, Sharon Lechter. I flew down, sat at her kitchen table. I walked out that day. I flew in as an exercise physiologist for Chevron building fitness centers in their blue collar, like offshore oil rigs, refineries, like the sexiest places in the world, Kazakhstan, Angola, Africa. I went in as an exercise physiologist. I went out the next day as a master distributor of the cash flow game, and I jumped. I quit my job and said, I'm going to go follow this Japanese guy in a game around. And I was teased and teased and teased, Keith, because, Rich Dad, Poor Dad didn't really hit until 1998. So it was sort of this risky proposition. But like with anything, you say yes, you figure it out. And I knew people asked me over the time, they said, well, what would have happened if Rich Dad, Poor Dad didn't hit, if it didn't become as big? I said, we just opened up another door. That's such a message for people. Their need to see the path of how to do everything before they move is honestly one of their biggest saboteurs. So for mindset, I think mindset also goes with knowledge, because I just know, having taught this, just this whole Millionaire Maker book. And for all your listeners, I can give them an ebook copy of the Millionaire Maker. So I'd love to give that out to everybody for free, however you want to do that in the show notes. But becoming a millionaire is the same thing as like you said, you got to learn to make money as an entrepreneur. Even if you haven't a job, you've got to learn to make money. You've got to learn to keep it through better tax planning, and you have to invest in alternatives, which is why real estate was my first millionaire status. And I've been a millionaire now in 9 industries. So that's kind of exciting new, hit 9 industries this last year. So done in a lot of different categories. Real estate was my first in 1999. And during that period, if it wasn't hanging out with Robert, Sharon, Keith Cunningham, like Bob Proctor, the guys, when you're living around millionaires, the fastest way to not only get your mindset, but then your behavior and your knowledge levels just skyrockets, because you're around, people who live it, and they're living it every day. I think those who sit on the bleacher seats, I call it, Keith, where they're just watching, reading, but never getting in the game, they're the ones who, they're sitting in the bleacher seats, right? They're just watching. They're not actually get on the playing field.
Sure, it harkens back to the classic Jim Rohn quote, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Loral, when it comes to mindset, one thing I think about is that every single day, 8.2 billion humans wake up, and every single one of us has this gap between who we are and who we could be, yet most of us make zero progress on this ever-present gap. So when it comes to wealth mindset and finances, what can we do?
You got to get a mentor and a coach. And I got a mentor and a coach when I was 17. What shifted me and really changed the whole trajectory of my life, I grew up a farm girl in Nebraska. And at 17, I was going off to university, also going to play basketball. And so I went to one of those pre-sports seminars, and Dennis Waitley was a speaker.
Yeah.
And I ran to the front of the stage and I got the book, Think and Grow Rich. And that, I can tell you, a farm girl at 17 going like, there's a whole nother way to live. So instead of going to school to get a law degree, which is what I went into, which I still think I'd be a heck of a little debater and negotiator, but I do that enough in business now. I got a finance degree and I just studied. And my first mentor at 17, I walked into a bank and I remember asking the bank president, will you mentor me? Because rich people put their money here. I need to understand money because I don't understand it. And I was never really raised in that conversation, which I would say 99% of the planet's that way. And I have taught and traveled this work since 1999 when I became a millionaire. Keith, I've put this work into 6 continents, all but Antarctica, so I know it works. In principle, everything we will talk about today works in every continent. The benefit is the United States has the most corporate structure, the best truck structure, the best tax strategies. So even my high net worth international clients end up typically in Nevada with a C Corp or some sort of asset company or trust, where then they can buy U.S. real estate, U.S. gas and oil, and activate our tax code for them. So we do a lot of really high level international strategies just because I've been all over to do that. Been very blessed to do that. It's interesting because I think mentoring, you're not going to be taught this. And what drives me crazy when people say, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times on your podcast too, Keith, schools should teach this. No, they shouldn't. Parents, you need to teach it.
Yeah.
You need to be more active in your household and your family. And instead of letting TikTok raise your kids, you need to raise your kids. So I do a lot of work in this category because my kids are now 18 and 25, raised them as a single mom. But legacy work is critical. And that's why I have a game. I have a Millionaire Maker game. So from the cash flow game, I have a game. And I think the parents have got to put the conversation about money in the household. And they got to monitor like what they say. Don't ever say to a child, don't ask for it, or we can't afford it. Because you can afford anything you want if you learn to make money. And I think Keith is part of this. I know we're a real estate show, but how many people want to be real estate millionaires and never make it? How many people want to do, like you said, whatever the life they're really meant to live? But again, I think I know their environment, who they hang out with, who they spend time with, what they read. Are they binging your podcast and my YouTube channel, or are they binging Netflix and Hulu and watching junk? Like how you feed your mind and what content, how many books you read. I don't care if they're ebooks, audiobooks, but you've got to put new content in your brain all the time and be around the people making it happen.
Oh, that's great. Sure. To change yourself, you got to change your 5, change your mentors, change your influencers, and be that parent that teaches your children about money. And you don't have to teach that money is a scarce resource. I really just think that's one part of a mindset. That's where most people's mind goes when they think about money. They think about it as a scarce resource for one thing, and it's pretty counterintuitive with the mindset. I mean, if you want to be in the top 1%, you're probably going to be misunderstood and even iconoclastic.
Yep, I would agree. And, another thing with mindset that I think is interesting is, and again, I'm going to go back to knowledge, about consuming the right knowledge. And on my YouTube channel, which is, Loral Langemeier, the Millionaire Maker, it's family friendly. It's for 5 years old and up. We actually have a YouTube journal, Keith, that we did, where it says, what day did you watch the video? What did you learn? What will you do? And in 365 days, because I'm there every day, here is and that's what I tell parents. I said, get yourself and get your kids a journal, and at least one lesson from every recorded, video. So I would say, give me 5 to 10 minutes a day just for a new piece of content. And the biggest one that is searched on my channel, I want to relate this to real estate, is people's mindset and understanding with debt. They have such a negative relationship to debt.
Exactly.
And I want to start with this. Debt is the cost of money, period. It is not negative. I think it's the most positive thing you could do. And as a real estate investor, arbitraging debt, meaning if you can get debt for 2-3% or 0%, I have over 500 sources. I can get 0% financing for 21, 24 months. That's free money. That's not hard money. That's not 13%, 14, 15. That's free. And I would go into $1 million of 0% debt. I have, and I will at the end, if I can invest it and make 10, 12, 20, 30%. So people need to learn debt is your friend if you use it in a responsible, organized, and educated way. It is absolutely your enemy if you're using it to buy lifestyle crap. So debt is such a weird thing, Keith, and I don't care how long I've had clients. if they grew up with a lot of debt and a negative impact around money, they can be a millionaire and still have this weird relationship to debt. It's like, oh my God, I'm going into debt. And it's literally, they tremor. It's like, it's just money and there's plenty of it. It's just the cost of it. Or is it being paid to you or are you paying it out? And arbitraging that range could build, I mean, that alone, if you just learned that strategy and applied it on top of your real estate strategy, would triple, if not 10x, your portfolio.
Like we say around here at GRE, financially free beats debt free. You understand the difference. So does our audience. A lot of people don't. In fact, trying to retire your debt can slow your progress toward being financially free.
I love it. Yep.
You know what's funny, Loral? Just like you're coming on this show today, sometimes I'm a guest on other shows. And the way I've started to have the host introduce me is say, hey, if you want your show to get some attention, say that our guest today, me, has millions of dollars in debt, and he has from a young age. That attracts attention. They think it's a negative thing. They don't know that my debt is outsourced to tenants. They don't realize a net worth statement, that's only the debt side of the column. We haven't talked about the asset side of the column. So it's really just an example of being paradoxical and iconoclastic there. When we move beyond the mindset, Loral, I know you have some really actionable things on how you can help people build wealth quickly. Tell us about that.
So again, using debt is a massive piece of it. I'll just talk about some of the stories. Like when I got into real estate in 1999, I lived in Marin, California, Sausalito specifically, right on the water, ocean view on one side, right at the San Francisco Bay, and got pregnant. And January 8th was like, oh, the little sticks. Like, oh, I'm going to be a mom. And I knew I'd be a single mom. So I entered parenting as a single mom and I struck that, another check for $25,000 seems to be the number for a real estate mentor that I've been kind of putting off. And I said, oh, it's time. I said, so right now, let's go. I have 9 months. And he said, why do we have 9 months? I said, I'm really close to being a millionaire, but I got to hit millionaire status and I need this much cash flow by my 34th birthday, which was June that year. I said, because in September, I'll be having a baby. And he went, what? Dropped the phone. And so he said, all right. And so I wired him the money and he said, meet me in Oklahoma City the next day.
Yeah, well, there's a ticking clock.
There was my timeline, 9 months. But we went straight to the streets. And I think for me, I was privileged to be with a whole team. And I don't think I am a massive advocate of if you don't know what you're doing and you haven't done it, why take 100% risk in any industry that you've never played? So I only got 15, 20% of that run. But here's what I came with in 1999. I knew how to build a database because Bob Proctor had taught me that. So during the cash flow era, I bought my own inventory, took out debt, bought $500,000 of games, put them in my own warehouse so I could collect my own database. So from 96 to 99, I had acquired 18,000 people who had bought Rich Dad Poor Dad books, Cash Flow 101, 202, all the products. And I had my own financing. So I was doing my own product. I had my own stuff. And all this is a big backstory because a lot of you in real estate don't have a database. And here's the value I brought to that team that earned me another almost 10, 15% of equity is I brought 18,000 people. And when they saw that, they're like, you could help us raise the money. I said, I don't know how to raise money. And they said, we do. So again, I bought my way into a team for $25,000 in a mentoring program. There's about 10 of us that met in Oklahoma City, went down to Norman. And within less than a month, we raised $16 million out of that database. They did. I didn't know how to do it. Again, I sat on the sideline, but highly mentored and guided. So I was on a winning team from the beginning. We bought so much real estate. And then we went into the remodel. And so right then it's like, well, let's own the construction company. So that way we can get better buys. We can buy for the whole street. We can buy for the whole apartment. So we started construction companies. We started being the distributor of the windows and doors. In Oklahoma, we did that. In Kansas now, we do flooring as part of the distribution. We've done stoves. I mean, you name it. If you're going to buy it from yourself or some way that you get paid extra. And then, like I told you before I went on the show, I would have the property management company. So we would start that, which then came along with the cleaning companies. Got to have the cleaning companies, the cleaning crews, the hauling crews. If you're going to pay $1,900, got junk, buy your own truck, lease your own truck, haul your own stuff, and then rent it out, lease it to others. So when we say cash flow fast in real estate, I went all in. So I own 51% of every property management company, and I put an ad in the paper for an electrician or a plumber because they were my most too expensive things. And so they became partners. And I just made a lot of this up, quite frankly. But I made it up with a lot of mentoring and guidance, of which those guys are still great, great friends of mine. We still own a little bit of property together. We went to Mexico and did a whole run through Mexico. The team was the most vital part. And what I say to folks in real estate, if you want to go big, is you better get a database. I just find, Keith, that so many people in real estate don't understand the association of having a database. And the way I describe it is today I might not want to buy, but if you don't have my name, phone number, and email, and you don't continue to market to me, the day I am ready to buy or sell, you're no longer on my radar because you're not keeping in touch with me. Your job as an agent, a broker, an investor, is to build this database of people who then will go along with you on a journey. And I can tell you it was very blessed to have done it that way, but that 18,000 is what helped me become a millionaire because I had the people. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't know anything about a PPM. I knew nothing, but I learned it all. And I was under a very, very successful, decades and decades of success team. So, they were 20, 30 years my senior, but boy, I learned. I really leaned into it. And I think people do buy into programs and mentoring communities, but they don't do the work. And I see it all the time. I don't know how many people, and I'm holding up my Millionaire Maker book, and then this latest one, which is how I made my kids millionaires on paper at 10, again, by using trust, real estate, put them on my real estate company shareholders.
Make Your Kids Millionaires is the title of the book you just held up. That second one.
Yeah, and that one's a 2022. That was my latest bestseller and how I did it with my kids. And again, this back to the parenting. So I can go a lot of ways, Keith, but I think the do it fast is go wider. I think so many people just go into buying just the asset and they don't, like I'm in the cannabis space right now in Nevada. I'm in the legal cannabis. I have licenses and very similar. If you're going to go in and you say seed to sale, you own everything. The guy who's running my farm, he owns the label makers. He owns if you name it, he owns the nutrient company because you need nutrients for the plant, you're going to own. So the more you own of what you do, and you have to pay, the more you keep your cash flow. And again, I see that mistake with real estate people subbing all the work to so many people. It's like, there's so much cash that just went out that could be, at least a percent of that could have stayed home with you.
Sure, 100%. There's an awful lot there. You're a big believer in vertical integration, in bringing in all these levels and stages of construction and management and so on, and bringing them in-house. And yeah, it's interesting you talk about the importance of the team. Here we talk about how your team, whether that's your property manager, your mortgage loan officer, your 1031 exchange agent, how your team is actually even more important than the property itself. And yeah, when it comes to having a database, these names, Loral, it's amazing in a way, reassuring in a high-tech world with AI that it still comes down to that primordial human connection of people and who you know. You, the listener, as you've listened to Loral, you could probably tell that she was a star student, which is why she's now a star teacher and mentor. So much more when we come back with Loral Langemeier. This is Get Rich Education. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. You know what's crazy? Your bank is getting rich off of you. The average savings account pays less than 1%. It's like laughable. Meanwhile, if your money isn't making at least 4%, you're losing to inflation. That's why I started putting my own money into the FFI Liquidity Fund. It's super simple. Your cash can pull in up to 8% returns and it compounds. It's not some high-risk gamble like digital or AI stock trading. It's pretty low risk because they've got a 10-plus year track record of paying investors on time, in full, every time. I wouldn't be talking about it if I wasn't invested myself. You can invest as little as $25K and you keep earning until you decide you want your money back. No weird lockups or anything like that. So if you're like me and tired of your liquid funds just sitting there doing nothing, check it out. Text FAMILY to 66866 to learn about Freedom Family Investments Liquidity Fund. Again, text FAMILY to 66866. Hey, you can get your mortgage loans at the same place where I get mine at Ridge Lending Group, NMLS 42056. They provided our listeners with more loans than any provider in the entire nation because they specialize in income properties. They help you build a long-term plan for growing your real estate empire with leverage. You can start your pre-qualification and chat with President Chaley Ridge personally. Start now while it's on your mind at ridgelendinggroup.com. That's ridgelendinggroup.com.
This is Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, and don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. We have a well-known name in the finance space for decades, Loral Langemeier, with us. She has done an awful lot of real estate investing in her career. And as you can tell, she's got her own recipe, her own formula. She does things differently. She integrates. She brings things in-house, has multiple companies, and Loral knows that you can be a profiteer when you serve the customer or the tenant really to the maximum amount. A lot of people have a gap there, and there's an opportunity cost. And Loral, I know that one way you serve people is with Airbnbs in the Ozark region of Arkansas. Tell us about what you're doing there. That's really interesting.
So we bought pretty big houses, and a few of them, the one we were remodeling it, and that's when we really got to know the Ozarks, and there's a lot of tentacles. And so to get from the properties we were buying to where you would rent a boat or a jet ski or get your watercraft, it was all the way around the lake. I mean, that's 2-lane roads, and it just took forever. And I thought, well, so we have another LLC that we bought some boats and jet skis. And again, when you get to know what do people really go to the Ozarks for, we call it the Redneck Riviera. They go to party. They go to party more than they need some bougie house to stay in. That's not what they really come. They want to stay on the docks. So instead of putting a lot of money, we said, how can we have one property has 22 beds. So 22 people can sleep, but they just barely sleep there because they party. So we put more money in rehabs into the dock, expanding the dock, big sound systems, a big bar, refrigerators, just made it super fun. And then when the tenants come, they don't just rent for the night. We also give them, we'll get your groceries and booze. We'll stock your bar down up on the dock. If you want, we'll pull up our boats and jet skis. So we had our own small fleet. Again, we just stacked on more service. So when the tenants arrived, we got, anywhere between, depending on the boats and the jet skis and the tubes and all the ropes and everything they wanted, water skis, whatever they wanted to rent. Basically, we became like a rental company, and everybody freaked out and they said, oh my gosh, you're going to get killed in insurance. You're not. It's a lot more planning and it's more work to get all that prepared. But that was anywhere between 500 to 1,000 more a night in just the Airbnb. So again, if you're going to do one thing, do more for them. The more you serve a client, I don't care what area it is.
Yeah.
The more you serve people, the more money you will make because they're going to buy it. They're going to have to go get their booze on their own. They're going to have to go get groceries. That's a whole day of getting all that gear to their property versus let us just save you a day on your holiday and let us do it all for you. There's so many creative ways that you could just serve people. And if you don't know what to do, ask them. What a novel concept. I do surveys all the time. Always doing polling and surveys. Hey, I'm a money expert. What do you want me to talk about?
Really
That's
cool.
why right now, if you really look at a lot of my YouTube and a lot of my social media, people want reduced taxes. So I'm doing a heavy lift because it was a survey that told me to do it, not just because Loral decided to do it. And I think so many of you don't realize your audience will tell you what they want and how they want to be served. If you're listening, that's how you make money. And so many people, as you know too, Keith, that come as the entrepreneur saying, this is what I'm going to teach you. Well, nobody asked. Nobody asked for that content. And you wonder why it's not working. It's because you're pushing your agenda versus pulling and giving and serving their agenda.
Well, that is a great point. How do you know what people want? 2 words, ask them, which is exactly what you're doing there. And the way that you're adding value and amenities onto a property there, like with what you're doing with Airbnbs in the Ozarks, it actually brings up a thought for another Jim Rohn quote. Jim Rohn said, money is usually attracted, not pursued. Tenants are attracted to your rental unit's new luxurious floors, and you'll soon profit when they compete over it.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff, it's not difficult. It's just different. And I use that saying all the time because people are like, oh my gosh, it's so scary. I said, it's not scary. The only reason why people put fear and risk and that kind of negative energy and words, language around, I think, real estate or money or any of that, it's the lack of knowledge. Because if they don't know anything that you don't know, it's scary. Like you and I talked before the show about Alyeska. If you don't know how to ski and you try to go to Alyeska, good luck. You would be scared out of your mind. But once you learn, it's exhilarating. And I find that with everything. So anything that you approach and just notice the hesitation, is it because you need to learn it? Then lean in and find the best in class to teach you and like shortcut your learning curve. You don't have to study for years and years and years and years. Becoming an entrepreneur is a decision right now, today, in 2 minutes, make a decision and then get to work on what your offers are. You say, well, what am I going to offer people? Ask them. And they'll tell you what they're going to buy from you because they're buying stuff all day long in this economy. They are buying and going to continue to buy.
If you yourself have a question for Loral, you can always ask it at askloral.com, Loral. And Loral, what are some of the more outstanding questions that you get over there, and how do you help them with some of the most important ones?
I'd say the biggest flood of content and questions right now is how do we reduce taxes? I made up this term called the tax trifecta because what affects your tax return is how you make your money. If you're just an employee, meaning a W-2, like in America, that's what it's called. And Kiyosaki said it best in Rich Dad Poor Dad, there's two tax systems. You're an employee, you're going to get taxed to pieces, you live on what's left. You're an entrepreneur and you make money inside of a company, you activate 81,000 pages of tax code, and then you pay tax. So you decide where you want to pay tax. I call this living corporate life. So how you make your money inside what kind of a company, right? And then activate the 81,000 pages of code for the deductions. Like I teach my people, they'll never go on a vacation. They're going to go on a business trip. And when you're in real estate, you can go anywhere in the world legally on a business trip as long as you do what's required to actually make it a business trip by looking at real estate. And it's not that difficult. I mean, the reason I'm in a lot of different businesses is my kids have never been on a vacation. I don't take vacations because they're not deductible. I take business trips. So I teach families how to employ their kids, how to do all of that. Like, how do you activate your kids? I mean, when my son was born in 1999, he was employed day one. He had Roth IRA by the second day of his life. And he was funded every day. And he's 25 now. Just that one move made him a millionaire. Just the one move of maximizing your Roth IRA, strategically using it to invest in real estate. So I use a lot of participating notes. I did all sorts of different plays to grow their Roths, tax-free, tax-deferred. So I'm super active about the whole family being in a real estate business. I think real estate it's the first one I went after, and it's still the first one I tell lots of families. I mean, it's got to be in your portfolio. I still own a lot of commercial real estate, some residential, like I said, in the Ozarks, but most of mine went commercial within the last, especially COVID. I went all commercial for the most part, besides a few pieces of residential. Back to the tax trifecta, how you make money, how you activate the tax code, and then the biggest one that nobody and financial planners will not tell you about it, your CPA won't tell you about it, TurboTax is never going to tell you about it. It's how you invest in alternatives. So real estate obviously is a big one. Gas and oil is a massive one. Aviation, water rights, mineral rights, conservation easements, carbon credits. Those are the ones that affect your tax because you get the depreciation schedules. So it's how you make it, how you use deductions, and how you invest collectively makes up your tax. And so those are the kind of questions, Keith, some category of that. Like I told you before the show, I have a new guy that just joined probably over $20 million of real estate and only a few LLCs, no S Corp, no C Corp, no trust. I'm like, and then you have these ridiculous insurance agents who say, insurance will cover it all. You don't need to have an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp. You do. You do too. I would never live on just insurance. That is such a 1960s conversation. Like, you guys got to grow up.
Yeah, well, totally. And you mentioned Rich Dad, and it's really the cash flow quadrant. And one thing that the cash flow quadrant helps delineate is you touched on it, your tax treatment. Tom Wheelwright is the most frequent guest that we have ever had here on the show, being the tax guy coming from the Rich Dad school. And Tom Wheelwright was really the first one to inform us that something like 98 to 99% of the tax code is actually a roadmap for where the deductions are. Only 1 or 2% of it maybe are the tax tables and what you must pay. Almost all the rest of it is this roadmap to give you a guaranteed ROI if you follow it, something that you don't usually get in investing. And you brought up a few interesting tax strategies there. I think one of them is how you employ your kids and get deductions that way while your kids learn. Tell us more about that.
I mean, when Logan was 2, I put him out. He was painting buildings. He was around all sorts of, title companies and closing tables. And then my daughter, same thing. So I take him with me. There's, again, part of parenting is they have to be involved in your life. And I think so many parents just leave their kids home. They leave them with the device of their phone or some iPad. None of that's of it. Like if they're going to sit at a closing table, then I want them, if they may not know everything at that moment, but that experience and that environment of just being a natural environment for them to know to do business deals, it changes them, changes your kids drastically. And then fast forward when my kids are 18, they get an LLC for their birthday. And they're added on shareholders in a bigger way, because then I use again the roadmap. Because I always laugh. I say, well, people read fiction novels and junk, whatever. I'm reading the tax code. I think the tax code is the most creative, freeing body of work that has ever been done. It's fascinating. It's so creative. My son's becoming a CPA because of it. So when my son went to school, he went on a football scholarship. He played for Georgia Southern, starting center 5 years. Because I'm a single mom and I only make $42,000. I don't even own a phone. I don't own a car. I don't own a home, actually, because it's held in an LLC. It's an estate property. My point
Or
is...
on paper. Or on paper.
No, companies own it all and trusts own it all. So I own nothing. Like I literally live Rockefeller style. And I teach people that. That's really beyond the millionaire maker stuff. But my point with the kids is then when he goes to school, so instead of going every Friday to watch him play football on a Saturday, I went on a business trip to see my son, and he and I actually are looking, again, that's in Statesboro, Georgia, where Georgia Southern is, buying some apartments that we can then go back into, and then we go to the athletic department, and we know how much they will guarantee rent, paying scholarship men to live in our apartment. Like, there are so many cool ways, and that's how my son will get involved. So during all of my trips to watch him, yes, I took 1 hour to watch him play football. Otherwise, I went to see my business partner. So my point is, and when he came home, he had to come home, not to just come home, but he came home to see his business partner, happened to be his mom. So there's a way to put your kids into these businesses early and put them through school, have school that can't be written off. And even when he was on a scholarship, all that travel was still not a deduction unless we structured it as a deduction to the real estate company. There's so many strategies. And I honestly, Keith, I made a lot of these up, and I went to, my top tax team and I said, why can't we do this? I said, I want this to be done. Tell me the legal way to do it. And then they would guide me. So then I just turn around and I teach other people that when you do your own taxes, number one, you're not educated enough to do your own taxes. So why people do TurboTax or even H&R Block, I mean, that's where kindergartners play. And if you want to be a millionaire, you have to get experts around the table that really know what they're doing. I mean, a proper tax strategist at the level we have, and I have like 28 people on my financial teams that integrate. I mean, they have masters of accounting, so they've gone to school 5 and 6 years. They've sat for 4 exams and had 2,000 hours of audit. So whenever like an engineer or somebody is like even a real estate investor is trying to do their own taxes, I'm like, it's a highly, highly skilled expertise. So anyway, I could go into the team approach. I don't think, Keith, I know so many people are so close to getting it really all right, but their sequence is completely out of order. And they're just, I call tax an invisible pain. You're just used to it. You're just used to paying it because you think you have to. And you've been scared by the media that it's this big, scary thing and the IRS is going to come get you. It's like, no, they're not. This is legal to do all this stuff. You just have to do it right and document it right.
Right. And that's part of your team, your tax team. And that's another good ROI. If you pay a tax preparer and strategist $5,000, which is more than most people, maybe they're making you 10x that or more with their knowledge of the tax code. And for you, the listener that might find the tax code to be dry reading, for a lot of people, you're probably right that it is dry reading. But if you think of it this way, if I act on what I read, then I am getting paid for what I'm reading here in the IRS tax code. Well, Loral, do you have any just last thoughts overall, whether that's about wealth mindset or real estate or anything else as we're winding down here?
Any question ever, you just go to Ask Loral, AskLorel, ask questions, make a request. You can ask about, I have online events. You can ask for free tickets. You can ask for ebooks. So ask for whatever you want. We're super generous on giving gifts away to especially our new listeners and new folks. But a lot of it's, I'm going to say it's active engagement. That's a term I've used as I walked into 2025. And I look at the people, I've made over 10,000 millionaires, probably 12, 14,000 by now. But the difference between those who make it and those who still struggle is active engagement. I'm showing this on your screen just to have it on video, but I got this magic wand because people say, I have a magic wand. I said, I do. I actually now officially have one. And it comes with pixie dust, but it doesn't really matter. It won't work. I can't just, anoint you with my little wand and all of a sudden magically you're going to change. You have to actively, like you said, study the IRS code, study my books. Like my Millionaire Maker is a blueprint for how to be a millionaire. So there's 7 families in the book. Pick which one you're closest to and what you've done to yourself, and then start the pattern. And there's a pattern and a sequence for everybody for 7 different kinds of family and what you've done to yourself. And I also live, the last kind of words I would say to people is that I've been doing this way too long. I have no judgment, no criticism about what you did to yourself. A lot of people are ashamed or embarrassed, like, I can't believe I'm this old and I should be farther along. So what now? What is my saying? So what happened or how you got here? What do you want to do about it now? So we start with a new fresh line in the stand and let's go. And you can create anything you want with the right team around you and the right initiative. So just know you'll be actively engaged in this. This isn't me doing it for you or to you. It's with you and you have to own it. You have to own your own wealth. Nobody else cares about it more than you.
These strategies work as long as you do. Loral, it's been a great mind spring of ideas for the listener here. Thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to hearing from many of you and helping you out.
Oh yeah, a wide range of expertise from Loral Langemeier there. And, we were talking about the awareness of the gap between who you are and who you want to be earlier. Really, there could be a gap between how you're utilizing your rental property currently and what it could be. Loral found more ways, for example, to serve her short-term rental tenants in the Arkansas Ozarks with providing boats and jet skis dockside to her tenants. In fact, there's a book all about this called The Gap and the Gain. It was published about 5 years ago. And let me tell you what it's about and maybe save you tens of hours of reading. Most people, especially highly ambitious people, are unhappy because of how they measure their progress. We all have an ideal. You have an ideal. I have an ideal. It's a moving target that is always just out of reach. Well, when you measure yourself against that ideal, you're in the gap. However, when you measure yourself against your previous self, you're in the gain. Measuring your current self versus your former self, that can have enormous psychological benefits. That's how you can feel like you're making progress, and that gives you confidence and you make more progress. You might have only owned 2 rental properties last year and you're going to have 4 this year. So you want to make that comparison. Don't make the comparison that Ken McElroy has 10,000 units and you never will. Big thanks to the driven and experienced Loral Langemeier today. I feel like she has a narrow gap between who she is and who she could be. There is a lot happening here at GRE. In our newsletter called the Don't Quit Your Daydream Letter, I recently let you know about what ChatGPT's AI updates mean for real estate investors, and I showed you that before and after photo of how you can now tell AI to just renovate your rental unit, and within just a minute, it shows a pre and post renovation. It shows what the renovation would look like. AI is also being used for fraud, like to generate fake receipts or insurance fraud that makes a property look damaged when it really isn't. And every few weeks, I like to send you a good real estate map, like the recent one that I sent you showing the cost of living by county and how that map was almost like a cheat code on how you can find the best real estate. Also, here at GRE, our free coaching is helping connect you with properties. Many of you are interested in BRRRR strategy properties lately. I recently reshot the entire Real Estate Pays 5 Ways course, and I updated it for today's times with today's numbers. I'm giving that away for free, those videos, and even giving a free gift at the end of the course. I share those resources with you in the Don't Quit Your Daydream letter as well. And then, of course, I sent you details on the great Investor Summit at Sea cruise starting in Miami, sailing the Caribbean, June 20th to 29th. and how you can have dinner with me and the other faculty like Robert Kiyosaki, Robert Helms, Peter Schiff, Ken McElroy, and more. And this particular cruise event is not cheap to attend, although I don't make any money from the event. But our Don't Quit Your Daydream letter is totally free. I would love to have you as a reader, and you'll stay informed on all these real estate investing insights and trends and events and more. Otherwise, you're really missing out. See, the reason that I write the letter is that I have visual things to show you that I cannot do on an audio medium here like this, like those real estate maps and before and after photos. I write the letter myself. So many other letters are now AI generated. I write this myself. It is all from me to you. And if you aren't already a reader, you can get the Don't Quit Your Daydream letter free right now. Just text GRE to 66866. And by the way, we don't text you the letter each week. That would be intrusive. The letter is emailed. It's just a convenient way for you to opt in. You can do that while it's on your mind. Again, text GRE to 66866. An alternative way to get the letter is to visit getricheducation.com/letter. That's getricheducation.com/letter. I've got a lot more for you next week. Until then, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
Whenever you want the best written real estate and finance info, oh, geez, today's experience limits your free articles access, and it's got paywalls and pop-ups and push notifications and cookies disclaimers. It's not so great. So then it's vital to place nice, clean, free content into your hands that adds no hype value to your life. That's why this is the golden age of quality newsletters, and I write every word of ours myself. It's got a dash of humor, and it's to the point because even the word abbreviation is too long. My letter usually takes less than 3 minutes to read, and when you start the letter, you also get my 1-hour fast real estate video course. It's all completely free. It's called the Don't Quit Your Daydream letter. It wires your mind for wealth, and it couldn't be easier for you to get it right now. Just text GRE to 66866. While it's on your mind, take a moment to do it right now. Text GRE to 66866. The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.